Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service at the DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church in Naperville, Illinois for July 24th, 2022. I'm Caroline Bailey. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a worship associate for this morning. I also serve on the church board. We are so glad that you are here, whether you are present with us in this sanctuary or watching remotely. It is so good to be together. To keep us all as safe as possible, we'll remain masked, except for those of us on the chancel who will remove our masks to speak from this microphone. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another in our spiritual and religious journeys. Whether you are a member or friend of this congregation or have recently discovered us, we are glad that you are with us this morning. Whoever you are, wherever you are welcome here. Finally, we are grateful for the help of our many Sunday volunteers, including the greeters, offering counters, song leaders, tech team, and ushers that make our services accessible and welcoming. Thank you all for being here this morning. And as we light our chalice, our opening words are from the Reverend Duncan Hewlett. The one thing that sets religion apart from all other aspects of human experience and activity is this: the religions of humanity have always insisted that there is more meaning to the life of individual men and women than the eye can see and the mind may know. And now Steve will have the time to gather.
It is time to gather. When we talk about religious education, it does not only apply to the youth of the church. Religious education is a lifespan entity. It happens from cradle to grave. It happens whether you want it to or not. But it's how you use that education and what choices you make in life that help define your beliefs. Part of religious education might be being able to say, I have my set of beliefs. I'm comfortable with them, and I'm not looking for change. But yet, still be willing to have an open mind to listen to and share with people who have other beliefs. Because you never know when you might discover that, hey, I believe that too, but just never thought about it or never had a way to articulate it. If people were not open-minded to new ideas and only believed in what they could see, just think how much science and technology would not exist today. So I have an activity for us to do. It's a time for us to interact. And this will give you an example of religious education and sharing beliefs. First, I ask that you do this in complete silence. No talking during this exercise. So if you're able, please stand and give yourself some room around you. You can move into open space so that you have enough room to move around. I would like for everyone to pick a body movement, something that is repetitive or rhythmic. just some type of a body movement. And continue doing that. It could be hand movements, it could be stepping in place. You could do the silly walk if you wanted, but you do have a limited amount of space. If you're sitting, you can choose a movement with your hands and arms or swaying your body. Now that you've picked a movement to be your own, do that movement for a while, get used to it. Now, while still doing that movement, find a partner and look at what they're doing and maybe incorporate some of their move into your move. Now find another partner and incorporate some of their movements into yours. Now maybe get into a group of 4 and incorporate some of these movements into your dance. And now maybe you can look around the room and see if there's something out there that you really like and you'd like to add that into your movement. And as you look around the room, you'll see that none of us have the exact same dance. However, you may see pockets of similarity because they are people who shared with each other. Some of you may have the same movement that you started with because you were really comfortable with it, or you didn't like anyone else's movements. Some of you have changed completely because you liked what you saw. And some of you are somewhere in between because you found some stuff that you liked and some that you didn't. And this is what I call the belief dance. Thank you for participating. You can return to your seats. It is now time for the children and youth to go to religious education class. Any older youth, you can choose to stay in the service, or you can be a helper in the classroom. Please rise as you are able for our song of affirmation, and please remain standing for our unison reading. Reading is adapted from Sheldon Capp. So I'm going to read the leader part in the white, and I would ask you as a congregation to do the part that is in orange or listed for congregation. This is it. There are no hidden meanings. There is no particular reason why you lost out on some things. The world is not necessarily just. Nevertheless, you have a responsibility to do your best. You are free to do whatever you like. You need only face the consequences. Yet it is necessary to keep on struggling. Life just keeps coming at you. There is nothing to figure out. Life is not
about anything. The answers keep changing. The question remains the same. All important decisions must be made on the basis of insufficient data. We learn the power of living with our helplessness and loving with our helplessness and beginning again and again and again. Please remain standing and join in hymn 187, It Sounds Along the Ages. We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. We remember those facing health challenges and those experiencing losses. Even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with one another and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways that we can. As we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, let us take a moment to be quiet together. I walked home in a shivering daze, uphill and down. Later, I laid open-mouthed in bed, my arms flung wide at my sides to steady the whirling darkness. At this latitude, I'm spinning 836 miles an hour around the Earth's axis. I often fancy I feel my sweeping fall as a breakneck arc like the dive of dolphins, and the hollow rushing of wind raises hair on my neck and the side of my face. In orbit around the sun, I'm moving 64,800 miles an hour. The solar system as a whole, like a merry-go-round, unhinged, spins, bobs, and blinks at the speed of 43,200 miles an hour along a course set east of Hercules. Someone has piped, and we are dancing a tarantella until the sweat pours. I open my eyes, and I see dark, muscled forms curl out of water with flapping gills and flattened eyes. I close my eyes, and I see stars, deep stars, giving way to deeper stars bowing to deepest stars at the crown of an infinite cone. The programs and operations of the church are supported by the voluntary The programs and operations of the church are supported by the voluntary contributions of our members and friends. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by our special offerings team. This month's organization is the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois, or UUPMI, which equips UUs to transform institutions and transform people harmed by the prison industrial complex. The morning's offering to support the work of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church and of UUPMI is given and received in a spirit of generosity and gratitude.
I'd like to mention, you notice I'm not Stephanie Quirk, but she did a video recording of the Color Purple segment that I'm going to read, but due to technical difficulties, we're unable to locate that. So here goes. The Color Purple segment. Here's the thing, say Shug, the thing I believe. God is inside you and inside everybody else. You come into the world with God, but only them that search for it inside find it. It? I asked. Yeah, it. God ain't a he or a she, but a it. But what do it look like? I asked. Don't look like nothing, she say. It ain't a picture show. It ain't something you can look at apart from anything else, including yourself. I believe God is everything, say Shug. Everything that is or ever was or ever will be. And when you can feel that and be happy to feel that, you've found it. One day when I was sitting quiet and feeling like a motherless child, which I was, it come to me, that feeling of being part of everything, not separate at all. I knew that if I cut a tree, my arm would bleed. And I laughed and cried, and I run all around the house. I knew just what it was. In fact, when it happened, you can't miss it. It's sort of like you know what, she say, grinning and rubbing high up on my thigh. Shug, I say. Oh, she say, God love all them feelings. That's some of the best stuff God did. And when you know God loves them, you enjoys them a lot more. You can just relax, go with everything that's going, and praise God by liking what you like. God don't think it dirty? I asked. Nah, she say, God made it. Listen, God love everything you love, and a mess of stuff you don't. And more than anything else, God love admiration. You saying God vain? I asked. Nah, she say, not vain, just wanting to share a good thing. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it.
This is another, another reading from Building Your Own Theology, the curriculum we use to study this subject. It's called The Still Small Voice by Theodore Parker. The 19th century Unitarian preacher Theodore Parker reports about a childhood incident. Walking home one day, he saw a lovely pond with rare flowers in bloom nearby. He stopped to enjoy it and saw basking in the sun a spotted tortoise. Parker wrote, I lifted the stick I had in my hand to strike the harmless reptile. For though I had never killed any creature, yet I had seen other boys out of sport destroy birds, squirrels, and the like. And I felt a disposition to follow their wicked example. But all at once, something checked my little arm, and a voice within me said, clear and loud, it is wrong. I held up my stick in wonder at the new emotion. I hastened home and told the tale to my mother and asked What was it that told me it was wrong? She wiped a tear from her eye with her apron and, taking me in her arms, said, "Some call it conscience, but I prefer to call it the voice of God in the soul. If you listen and obey it, then it will speak clearer and clearer and always guide you right. But if you turn a deaf ear and disobey, then it will fade out little by little and leave you without a guide. Your life depends on heeding this little voice. I'm sure no event in my life has made so deep and lasting an impression on me."
From January to March of this year, 10 of us from the DuPage UU Church gathered to participate in adult religious education curriculum called Building Your Own Theology. We met over Zoom for 10 Sunday afternoons. BYOT, as it is affectionately called, was developed by UU minister, the Reverend Richard Gilbert, who retired a few years ago after serving the Rochester, New York Church for over 40 years. The Unitarian Universalist Association first published BYOT in 1978, and Reverend Gilbert updated it in 2000. Reverend Gilbert said he was inspired by the words of the Reverend Angus MacLean. "It has been said that liberal religion is a do-it-yourself kit, but there is a danger that we would make it a kit not only without blueprint, but without tools and material." The BYOT curriculum presented 10 topics, aspects of religious life for our consideration, each with readings, activities, and discussion. Let me read to you the titles of the 10 sessions. Doing Theology, a Liberal Religious Model. Your Religious Odyssey. Varieties of Liberal Religious Experience. Human Nature, Some Honest Self-Understanding. Ultimate Reality, Creating an Honest God. History, An Honest Backward Look. Ethics as Unenforceable Obligations. We are the meaning makers. So what? Imperatives of my theology. And wrapping it up, a credo. Each session presented us with inspiring and provocative readings from diverse sources, some of which we share with you this morning. Although not every aspect of the curriculum appealed to each participant, the most enjoyable and productive part seemed to be the small group discussion and sharing, which required me to improve my facility with putting people in Zoom rooms. We were diverse in terms of ages, religious backgrounds, and length of time affiliated with a UU church. Some participants said that the class helped them solidify and articulate long-held beliefs, and others reported that they found out what they really did think. Growing up in a Unitarian Sunday school, I was taught that religious education is a lifelong process, not something that I would graduate from. In the words of an old Unitarian hymn, "Revelation is not sealed." Our life teaches us the world changes. There is new knowledge from science and philosophy and art, so our theology should adapt as well. I always say if 10 years have passed and my ideas have not evolved, I have failed as a Unitarian Universalist. Therefore, whether or not you participate in a Building Your Own Theology class, that is our task as Unitarian Universalists. And a purpose of our congregation is to assist us in doing so.
Thank you. I come to DUC to help me create a sense of inspiring belonging. Belonging in the sense of feeling at home in the world and having a sense of meaningful connection to myself, to others, to Mother Earth, and to the universe that inspires me. Taking the Building My Own Theology class helped me in this effort. And interestingly enough, usually I think of a credo statement or a thinking statement, but it helped me clarify my faith feelings, a sort of a feeling statement that can complement my belief statement. In a very real sense, I think my feelings about life precede and shape my thoughts about life. But here's a few assumptions that I can't prove, but that help guide me in my sense of journeying through life. Assumption number one is that I believe there isn't necessarily any inherent meaning in life other than, of course, the biological imperatives of surviving and reproducing and caring for those close to us. Beyond those we tend to make our own meaning and purpose in life. My second assumption is nature and nurture lay the groundwork for my beliefs. I vividly recall my mother saying she wanted me to grow up to be a good and kind man. My father modeled this in his own life. That, plus the kind of sensitive, shy, non-competitive temperament that I have as a person, laid the foundation on which I build my life assumptions and goals. The safety and security of the home they provided helped me to develop a sense of trust that family and the extended family of church could be trusted and relied on, and that there was a sense of abundance rather than scarcity in life that makes generous love of others reasonable and possible. This is kind of a humorous one. Another vivid memory I have is when I was very young, my grandmother gave me a quarter, a nice shiny quarter, and then asked me to give it back to her, which I did. And she marveled at my generous spirit, expecting me to want to hold on to it and refuse to take it back, to give it back, rather. Did this test result, so to speak, reflect some sense of inner abundance? Or was it a desire to please my grandmother? I wonder. Perhaps it's both. My third assumption, it's helpful to gather in faith communities like DUC to feel a sense of belonging and encourage each other and our children to lead good, compassionate lives. To grossly oversimplify, I think our mammalian brain makes it possible to live out better angels in our nature, to feel empathy and compassion, and build a sense of inclusive community and belonging. And, unfortunately, it also makes it possible to have a tendency toward tribalism and loyalty to our group to the exclusion of others. And our reptilian brain makes it possible to be unempathic and unfeeling and kind of ruthless, seeing others as threats to our survival that need to be eliminated. Knowing that our eventual survival on the planet involves learning to care for each other and Mother Earth, I come to DUC to help me strengthen the better angels of my mammalian nature. Fourth assumption, life is full of possibilities to connect with others in ways that promote mutual understanding and build a beloved community. Spiritual practices like meditation, and you'll find out a little more about this later, humanist prayer, help me to become aware and remain aware of these continual bids for connection that are constantly becoming available in our lives. Assumption 5, it seems important for me to live my life as if there is a spirit of love and creativity at work in the world, bending the arc of history toward justice and inclusive compassion for all, even if I can't prove that such a spirit exists. This seems to be a more spiritual time of my life in retirement, when I'm freed from the burdens of making a living. I'm finding spiritual practices, routines, rituals, regular volunteer activities, coming to church every Sunday. These are ways I structure my life in an important way, since the job no longer automatically structures my life. Which leads me to a little creative video project that I worked on recently with the Unitarian Universalist Soul Matters online video storytelling class, exploring what the spiritual practice of prayer means to me as a humanist, I hope you enjoy it. Today I'd like to share with you some of my musings about the notion of prayer. What in the world does prayer mean to someone who's a humanist, who doesn't believe in a supernatural, and who doesn't believe in a personal God who's out there listening and answering my prayers? It seems, I was raised Catholic, and it seems like a natural thing to try to find a way to relate to the larger grounding reality that's around me. But what does it mean if I don't believe in a personal God? It seems to me that prayer can help me remember who I am and help me feel more at home in this bewilderingly complex universe that I'm in. And it can help to remind me of the grounding reality that underlies all the distractions that constantly bombard me in life. It seems to me that prayer is a practice that can function like a GPS or a compass that can help remind me and point toward the true north of my purpose in life, and my most important values in life, and sort of reconnect me to what's most important in my life. I see prayer as a sort of a bid for connection to the universe, to the transcendent reality of life, and a way to listen and set aside time to listen to what the universe may be trying to say back to me as well. I've developed an outline or an acronym of what I think are the important elements of prayer as I live into the questions, striving to relate closely to the world. My acronym is question mark, CLOSE question mark. The question mark symbolizes the questions that I am currently seeking answers to, my intentions, my longings. The C stands for cosmos, the awe and wonder that science helps me continually discover about the creative processes at work in the world. L means looking through the lens of loving kindness for all beings on earth, and for looking through a lens of gratitude for the richness of experience and the joy and the meaning in life, if only we look for it. O stands for recognizing the importance of our relationships with others. We need each other, and we need to avoid the mistake of devaluing others who we see as different than ourselves and recognize our common humanity. S stands for self, valuing and cherishing myself, my inner wisdom, my intuition, and recognizing that I am worthy and deserving of a happy life. E stands for Mother Earth and her interdependent web of all existence, upon which our lives depend. We need to respect and care for her. And lastly, the question mark stands for the mystery of life, a reminder to approach things in an open-minded way, not thinking that I know all the answers, having a beginner's or a learner's mind. So how do I use this acronym? Typically, I'll go down with my journal to the dining room table while the coffee's brewing and use the acronym to think about what I think are important things to reflect on for the day. Oftentimes I'll only get through one of the elements, like what is my intention for the day, or what question am I struggling on now? And it helps to ground me and give a sense of direction to my day. And it helps me share some things with my wife Caroline about what I'm thinking about and what I'm feeling at this moment. It's very useful.
What you're not seeing is a graphic, and that's the last graphic. If I could have the first one, that would be better. That graphic is a picture of Stonehenge. And the haiku on it says, "Shivering among crow caws, a solstice chant." I chose that because for a long time, this photo haiku collage would have perfectly captured the sense of mystery and spirituality in my life on this planet. However, first, I want to explain how I approach writing my Build Your Own Theology credo from the standpoint of talking only for myself. That's because all of my interactions are seen through my eyes and my responses to the situations that I encounter. But before I tell you about what I gained from the 2022 Build Your Own Theology course, I have to take you on a flashback to the year 1979. In 1979, I was a new UU at the Park Forest UU Church. I was brand new to UUism. What I knew was I didn't see myself as a Christian any longer. I had read a lot about Buddhism, but I didn't see myself as a Buddhist. Hence, entering the Park Forest UU Church congregation, I had no particular set of religious beliefs that I adhered to. So I was ripe in 1979 for the UU Build Your Own Theology course. It was a wonderful opportunity to examine and to clarify the kind of religious beliefs that seemed right for me at that time. But it was also a terrific opportunity to listen to other UUs in the Park Forest Church, and thus I gained a clearer understanding of my own personal operating theology, and I also benefited by having established friendships in that church that lasted long after I had no longer become a member of the Park Forest Church. So let's skip forward to the spring of 2022. When I saw Caroline Bailey was offering the Build Your Own Theology course to the DUC members, I thought it's a great opportunity to reassess my current belief system. And what I discovered 43 years ago was that I still had as much to examine and to clarify by means of the course curriculum in 2022 as I did in 1979. While 43 years ago I looked to a religion based in divine power and moral precepts, I am today a confirmed atheist. And that brings me to my credo statement. My credo: I believe that I am an organism, that is a very tiny part of the ecosystem of life on this planet. I believe that I am consciously aware of being alive. That is to say, not only do I experience life, but I'm able to respond to life in a complex and thoughtful manner, and not just by knee-jerk instinctive reactions. I believe that life does not demand anything of me. That is, I do not believe that a God or divine spirit has put me on this planet for a purpose, nor am I working off bad karma from years past. And I believe, as a part of all life, that I must live in ethical relationship with all other parts of life on this planet. Thus, my choice of ethical relationship guidelines is most similar to the UU7 principles. Here are my 9 ethical responsibilities. 1, I aspire to know myself. 2, I aspire to live a balanced and healthy life. 3, I aspire to treat myself with dignity, respect, and compassion, a lot of compassion. 4, I aspire to treat others with dignity, respect, and compassion, just as I would want them to treat me. 5, I aspire to know and love all life and to treat the interdependent web of existence with dignity, respect, and compassion. 6, I aspire to pursue a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 7, I aspire to refrain from rigid or unchallenged belief systems of any sort. 8, I aspire to use the democratic process of interaction conscientiously in my own household and in all civic society. And 9, I aspire to help build a world community based on peace, liberty, and justice for all. Each day, I find, brings new experiences and new opportunities that challenge those aspirations for me. Allow me to end this brief credo with a reference to the Greek myth of the Minotaur's labyrinth. In the Greek myth, the labyrinth was a maze that was so complicated that no one could find their way out, and eventually a monster named the Minotaur would eat them. But a Greek named Theseus managed to trick the maze and the Minotaur with a ball of string to track his path. He escaped and, of course, lived happily ever after. The last photo collage here is about the way I see the future, and I find it a hopeful direction. Minotaur's maze, straight string, straight tied around the corner, and daylight.
I'd like to thank all the participants in today's service. It was really tremendous. My closing words are a challenge from, again, Reverend Angus McLean, a long-time UU religious educator. His challenge is, I suggest that we Unitarian Universalists be committed to spending time regularly in the study we consider essential to the acquisition of truth. That every Unitarian Universalist be expected to respect and use devotional exercises and be taught to use them. That every Unitarian Universalist be committed to participate in teaching religion to their children. That every Unitarian Universalist associate themselves with the cause of and the agencies of civil liberties, and that they associate themselves with some social agency that serves the needy and unfortunate. That every potentially competent Unitarian Universalist plan to teach at least twice in 10 years, or to otherwise serve their local parish. That every member of the church stand against hate and persecution of any persons or group for reasons of race or religion or any other things. There should be a mark upon us as a people to show the world not just whence we've come, but whither we go. Please rise and join me in hymn number 145, and remain standing for our responsive benediction. And as we extinguish our chalice, please join me in the responsive benediction from long, long ago Unitarian Francis David. You need not think alike to love alike. So be it.